Morning, everybody. We've got another interesting guest. We have used to be honorable. I don't know if we should call him dishonorable. Dishonorable. Tendai Biti,
He needs no introduction.
None whatsoever. One of the finest finance ministers that we had. He's also on the panel. He's sharing his thoughts with ZNCC. Maybe we can start there. What are your thoughts? What the year review? If we were to review, 2024, what has it been like?
I think it has been one of the worst years in living memory from an economic point of view. If you have a situation where every sector and every pocket of the economy is suffering from big capital to Mairuizi in Lotito or Chendambuya, then it means that the government is failing to get anything right. You have a situation where we have total and absolute mismanagement of the economy. We have contradictory, policies. We have a total and absolute mismanagement of the exchange rate. We have total extractive and extortionate and contradictory regime of taxes. And we have policy missteps literally every day. The net result is massive disinvestment from this country. The net result is massive capital flight. There are some companies that we associated with Zimbabwe, but they're leaving the country. You have massive institutions retrenching and downsizing. And since the 5th of April, when the ZIG was introduced, the economy has been pushed into a ZIG-induced depression. There's no aggregate demand. There's no disposable income, and a budget comes. The budget that is sinking us further. When you're in a hole, you don't dig a hole.
Okay, so we had the budget last week, and you had the honor and privilege of putting together a budget throughout the GNU. Have you had an opportunity to look at this budget? And what are your thoughts? Is there anything in there that you liked?
Firstly, it's a technical document. So it must make sense purely from a technical document. So the first problem about that document from a technical standpoint is that it is calibrated in a local currency that is so fluid and volatile, which makes no business sense at all. We are a country that has been ravaged by 6 bouts of currency changes. And so we know the fiction and the dangers of dealing in a volatile local currency. I think the minister is doing that because when you then hide behind this volatile currency, it hides
a lot of things.
It hides a lot of things. So technical unsoundness, number one. Technical unsoundness, number two, is the macroeconomic framework. You can't predict and project a 6% growth rate for 2025 on 3 very dubious assumptions. A good rainfall season. Right now, as I'm talking to you, there's a huge heat wave in the Southern African region. It's debatable whether we're going to have a decent agricultural season. You can't say we're going to maintain a tight
stable currency.
A stable currency when a stable currency is tied to the third thing, which is living within your means, and we know you're not capable of living within your means. Once the boys who do construction are paid, broad money supply jumps through the roof, and we know what happens. The 4th Street and the black market celebrates, the rate collapses. So there are 3 assumptions that can hold water and support.
But to be fair, he actually says that revenue is going to grow from 110 to 270. So inbuilt in there is actually inflation.
Exactly. Now, so we're talking about an unsustainable, an unsound macroeconomic framework. You can't predict 6% when you don't have energy. The country is crippled by the lack of.
They're actually saying that it's actually growing.
Oh, no, it's a fiction. So the macroeconomic framework is suspect and dubious. The budget framework itself is also dubious. You say we are collecting 110 ZIG, and we hope in 2025 to collect 276 zig, a jump of 150%, yet you're projecting a growth of 6%, meaning you're actually budgeting
Inflation.
for inflation. So from purely from a technical point of view, it doesn't hold water. It doesn't hold. I've looked at some of the figures in the actual blue book. The actual blue book itself is not adding up. It has got elementary mistakes. In 2020, remember, you brought 2 blue books. And I hope MPs will pick it up, because this particular blue book, the figures don't add up. So that's just from a technical point of view.
So you're saying that there's data integrity problems?
Exactly. It lacks technical credibility, and that is the starting point. We can and we should quarrel about your policies, but at least produce a sound technical document. This document is not a sound technical document.
Do you think that the IMF SMP would help, at least as far as that's concerned? Because there's no external party who's actually marking.
I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Mkomatinashi.
Okay.
We have had 2 Article 4 consultations in Zimbabwe. 2 Article 4. The last one was this year, and the previous one was 2 years ago. Mutuli Ngube has refused, because he has disagreed with the findings and the recommendations. So he has refused the IMF to publish those Article 4 reports. So this is the first time in history that an Article 4 consultation team came into a country without the previous report having been published. So if you are so terrible that you want to hide data as to censor an Article 4 report, an Article 4 report, I used to love them. Because an Article 4 report is just a review of your economic vitals. Yeah. It helps you as a treasury boss. It helps you as a country. So if you are going to refuse an Article 4 or the publication of Article 4 report, you deserve a staff monitored program. And remember, we've had more than 8 SMPs since 2014. What have they yielded? They've yielded nothing, because because they keep on being told about everything. They keep on,
at least from an integrity perspective, I think we don't have an external examiner at the moment. So literally, what they give us is what we must just take.
Let's start with the domestic institutions. So let's strengthen Parliament. Let's give teeth to the Public Accounts Committee. Let's give teeth to the Budget Committee. Let's also have enforcement mechanism of the Public Finance Management Act. The Public Finance Management Act in sections 32, 33, 34, 35 insists on monthly reporting of accounts. It insists on quarterly auditing. It insists on the Ministry of Finance playing a regulatory role. But this Ministry of Finance has now reduced itself into an direct allocating ministry, contrary to the provisions of the Public Finance Management Act. Let's strengthen the Public Debt Act, because they are borrowing as if money grows on trees. So let's put borrowing limits in the Public Debt Management Act. So before we go to an external player, an external regulator, let's improve our internal governance and our internal oversight, because that is missing and that is lacking. And the worst thing is that we've got a very weak parliament.
So final, because I know you have to get in. There's something that's exciting the world, the economic world right now, is this idea, the Elon and Vivek idea of Department of Government Efficiency. And we were thinking, if we would have our own local Doge, what would it look like?
For it to have power, you have to incorporate it in the constitution. In other words, place it on the roll. And some years ago, we argued for this. When we had the constitutional making process, we argued that let's have a financial ombudsperson. Being part of the 4 pillars of the state, sitting alongside with your Human Rights Commission, your Gender Commission, your National Peace and Reconciliation Commission. In other words, independent oversight body. And we need that. In Uganda, they've got such an office, an ombudsman who simply looks at financial compliance. So one of the things that is missing now is that because the Public Accounts Committee is not being allowed to do its a job. For instance, just to give you an example, the budget in the budget, the minister acknowledges that he's going to have a deficit of like 9 billion US dollars. Yet he doesn't bring a supplementary budget because the law says if you're going to overspend, you need a supplementary budget. He has been overspending since 2018. And you remember, he brought a financial adjustment bill of 10.6 billion US dollars.
Yeah.
He brought a financial
Condonation.
bill of 100 billion RTGS dollars. He has not sought condonation. So he's getting away with murder because we don't have an oversight body put in the constitution. So I wouldn't call it, I wouldn't give it a Trumpian term like Dodge. I would call it a financial oversight commission or a financial.
Well, not just financial, but for example, regulation and for
Exactly.
example, streamlining efficiency in government. Do you think that there's a lot of what we could potentially do within
We
our
could,
government?
but you see,
Civil servants, ghost workers.
it requires political will. Unfortunately, in Zimbabwe, despite a decent constitution, it's one country where politics dominate everything. Politics suffocates us. We technically, the prosecutor general is supposed to be independent, and everyone is supposed to be independent. But we know that ultimately, at the end of the day, real power lies with the politicians, not with institutions. So the real issue is how do we strengthen our institutions so that these institutions, be it the judiciary, can actually play a role.
Fantastic.
So this body, if you put it in a Zanonized environment, it will be suffocated by politics.
Okay. Thank you very much, and all the best in your presentation.
Thank you.